All right. Good afternoon, Elements family. This is Coach Justin here with another basic ski class for you today. Um, so you might notice this new on the page. I was recommended to move from the Springfield to the Northwest page since this is where most of the classes are happening anyway. Even though I'm out of Springfield Elements, so I just trying to broaden the audience a little bit with our other sister page. So today, like I have been, I'm going back to the guard position. It's like one of the first positions you should know in jiu-jitsu, especially gi jiu-jitsu, because there's so many different things you can do from here and so many attacks and so many sweeps, especially since you have all the handles to go off of. So so yesterday I went over a couple of guard sweeps and the collar choke. Today I'm going to go over a couple more collar sweeps and the omoplata and the omoplata position, just because you need to know that it's there. You need to know that that it's a position you can get into. Okay, so so before I begin, again, want to say this is a basics class, so there's going to be a lot of actual exposition, so they'll be doing a lot of talking. If you would like me to watch you practice, I do have a Zoom channel that is linked to the posts that I post, so if you want to come into those and do work there, I can actually critique or whatever. But while I'm doing stuff, while I'm talking about stuff, it's perfectly fine for you to practice and listen at the same time. You will need some sort of mat space. This is probably big enough for the most part. It's about 8 by 12 or so. Your living room would work just fine as well. So whatever space you decide to use to do your jiu-jitsu in, make sure that you have enough room, and a partner is always good. This is, for those of you who are maybe for tuning in for the first time, this is Bob. Bob's a dummy that we have, or that I have. Actually, sorry. Well, if you are interested, if you're in the Eugene Springfield area, we do have some at the Springfield Elements Club, and so you can always contact George Burns. And if you don't know who that is, you can probably just contact the club directly and ask to be in contact with George for one of those. And they do have, this is the bigger one, this is the adult size one, similar to this anyway. We do have kid size ones for those who have kids that want to practice at home. So okay, well, let's get started with our class here today. Okay, so the first sweep I want to go over today is called the star sweep. All right, now as a basics class, this is a combination of what can happen, even in a real fight, and what you don't want to happen when you're doing jiu-jitsu. Okay, so your opponent will probably have their legs wrapped around you. Okay, obviously I can't do that with Bob here, so we'll just kind of pretend a little bit. What I want to do as the guy on top is I actually want to get to a standing or to more upwards position. I'm the kind of person who likes to break the guard from the knees, but there are lots of guys who stand up in a guard. And when they do that, the sort of the way they feel most comfortable standing up so they're not off balance with the center is to put both feet on either side of your opponent. So it usually works like this. I'm usually pressing on my opponent. I step up with one foot, I step up with the other foot, and now both feet are here near the hips. Okay, so it's kind of like, so where my feet are, right? And what happens, what you can do real easily, I'm going to kind of change my angle here so you can see this, is if Bob here reaches down and grabs my ankles with both of his hands, all right? This can be difficult for some people. I know I have trouble with it, but then again, it can be real easy for some people who have real, good long arms or whatever. And even in the gi, grabbing a foot is a real important aspect of some of the other things you would do in the gi. So what Bob's going to do is he would reach down and grab both my feet. So he'd just reach around my feet and grab my ankle, kind of like If this were mine, I'd grab his ankle like this. Okay, so both ankles. What that does is that keeps me from being able to move my feet back, right? I'm right here, both my feet up. He's pushing, he's got his legs up and wrapped around me like this. These feet can't go anywhere except maybe forward. So he's grabbing my feet, right? And then all he's got to do at this point, once he's grabbed my feet, is open up the guard. So he's gonna. So again, imagine he's wrapped around me. Now he unhooks the guard. He pinches his knees together and extends his hips up. Well, when he does that, I go off balance this way, right? All my weight goes into my heels. I want to step back, but I can't because he's got a hold of my feet, and I come crashing down. So it'd be like if I was here, boom, and I'm like, like this, right? Okay. When your opponent comes down, then you can sit back up on top of your opponent because you have at least control of one leg, if not both, and then you can sit up and finish the sweep. Okay, this sweep is called the star sweep, and it's, like I said, it's a very basic beginner sweep that's real important for you to know that it exists. Not many people will make this mistake, but you can also make adjustments to make this work, okay? Like, for example, if I'm smart, and when I start to pass the guard, I put one foot up, like this, and I push off, and I put the other foot back here, right? Your opponent, if they're good, grabs onto this leg here, and then can swivel their body over to the other side and grab the other foot, right? This can happen if you're not careful. So that's kind of a next step, you know, like if your opponent pressures off of you and puts both feet here, easy, right? But if your opponent pressures off of you, puts one foot up and one foot back, that's going to be a little trickier, all right? And that's part of the reason why some of our guard passes require us to control sleeves and wrists and stuff. So there's a few standing guard passes that we do that require a wrist control. And if you forget that part or miss that part when you get to it, this is potentially a way that your opponent can sweep you. Because I know, for myself at least, if a guy stands up on me and my legs are wrapped around his, I'm going to lift my hips up into the air with him, and I'm going to stay attached to him. My feet are going to stay around his body. So when your opponent comes in and wraps with their legs around your body, and you go to stand up, it's real easy to keep your hips open so that you bridge up with them. And you're actually pushing down on their hips with your hamstrings. Okay, it's hard to show here because getting Bob up to a standing position is not really possible. And so it's days like these, I wish I had a partner who would come consistently. And if you know anybody, let me know. But in any case, so again, this is a star sweep, and it happened, and this is for the guy on the bottom. I know I'm on top, so I'm like, oh, the guy on top. No, guy on bottom. Okay, so the guy on bottom, I'm trying to stand up. In my head, in my speed to stand up, I make a mistake, and then then you capitalize on it. Okay. Now this is also good for a situation where your opponent has decided they want to try to stand up because they're not doing anything in your guard. Like let's say you're in a real fight. Okay, that's another one of these instances where this is a real common response. All right. You're in a real fight with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or they've seen, like how to punch or how to throw an elbow or whatever. And so you're dealing with that person. Okay. So they've got their legs wrapped around you, and they're in here and they're trying to punch. And so you're pulling them down, you're clinching them down. They're trying to push away. Okay. They're like, I can't get away from this. They have some neutralizing stuff and you're, if they stay too close, it's real easy to take someone's back. And if they don't try to base or get away, then you can take their back. But if they do try to base or get away, you can determine what you do based on what they do. So again, you know, they get to here, they push, you're still attached to around the waist. They go step, boom, boom. You're up here like this. Okay, they're up here like this, and you're in a fight. You grab their feet or grab their ankles, around their ankles. So you're reaching around and grabbing the outside of my legs, right? And once you're here, then you can let the legs go, pinch the knees together, which is going to cause me to buckle this way. Since I can't step back, I'm just going to fall, and then my opponent comes up on top of me, whether that be you or, you know, whatever. So that's what we want to do in this scenario. We want to control these feet to get ourselves up to that star sweep position and then come up on top. And unless you really, like, there's a couple of things I could do since my feet are on the outside in this scenario. Like, I could do, like, there's some leg locking stuff I could do. But if you're in a real fight against somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or you're in a jiu-jitsu tournament for most of the lower belts, and they do this to you, if I put my foot too far inside when I try to do a leg lock, then they can get disqualified. So this isn't really the best scenario for a leg lock, because most of the time when the guy comes down, they're going to come all the way down like this, and you're already sitting up. If you leave your legs here too long, then definitely getting leg locked is a possibility. But in our basic class, this is something that you should be aware of and should be somewhat familiar with, in case your opponent makes that mistake. Okay? And then just to reiterate, if the same thing happens when I'm trying to pass and maybe I don't have control of the sleeve, which is totally possible, especially if you've been practicing no-gi for a really long time and you decide to switch over to the gi, such as myself, or rather, I just say study the gi, is what I would say. And I go here to push, to come up. I'm not controlling the sleeve. And remember, what happens is I step up, he comes with me, like this, stepping, so that I'm slightly, you know, jagged stance. He can grab this foot and then readjust and grab the other foot and still star sweep me, right? So he could be here, grab my foot, then grab the other foot, and then I'm still getting star swept. So knowing that for this particular move is really important. But like I said, it's always a good move to know in a just-in-case scenario when you're with your opponent and you're not sure, or they're not, they're newer, you know, especially like even some people who've been practicing for a while may not always get into the guard position to practice, and so they could still be vulnerable to this. And then you'll teach them don't do that, and they don't do it, and there you go. So, so that's the star sweep. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to let me know. This should be on YouTube soon if you guys want to watch it there, or this will still be on the Facebook videos after we're done. Okay, moving on to the next sweep, which is the pendulum sweep. All right, now the pendulum sweep, not my favorite sweep. And part of the reason being is because you have to have decently flexible hips. In fact, the more flexible your hips are, the more you can kind of break dance, essentially, the better. And you might be asking, well, then why am I showing? Well, because I'm not trying to do jiu-jitsu that just works for me. I want you guys to have the opportunity to learn jiu-jitsu that works for everybody, even if I can't necessarily do it 100%. Okay, so how does the pendulum sweep work? All right, so the pendulum sweep works like this. So I'm on my back, right? I'm gonna spread his legs apart, give a little bit more of a base. And I'm gonna get a straight on angle here so you guys can see what I'm doing from my position. So I need to get a sleeve, and I need to bring it across, and this is similar to the flower sweep, except instead of grabbing the pants, situation where I would grab the pants, this works out real well when your opponent decides to post his foot, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to get this arm deep underneath his leg. And that depth can be even while his legs are down on the ground. You can do this. I just find because of my lack of flexibility that with the foot up is going to work the best. So if you can just get this arm underneath with the leg down, that's fine. And what you want to do is you basically want to be turned sideways with your opponent. So if my opponent is this way, I want to turn myself so that I'm 90 degrees with my opponent. All right, different than the scissor sweep we did yesterday, because that's straight up and down, and the flower sweep, because that's just slightly off. This we want to be full, like turned 90. And notice this leg is in the air, right? This leg's in the air, and this leg's down here. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to keep a hold of this sleeve, because I don't want him to base with this hand, okay? And I'm going to chop this leg down and kick this one around, right? So it's going to go like this, and that's going to be your pendulum. So I'm going to come out like that. This leg's going to follow through and over, and then he's going to roll up like that. And I'm going to have a hold of this leg, and ideally clear this leg, like I said. And that's because I should have kicked underneath more. So I kick underneath correctly, this leg will be behind. So I'm going to try it again so I can try to do it correctly for you guys. So again, I'm sideways like this. I've got this leg here. I've got this arm here. I'm going to kick. There we go. See how I come up? Now I'm on my knees. Okay? So it's all about that kick to get your leg out from underneath you. Right? So one more time. My opponent has decided to post up with this foot. Maybe they're trying to stand up, because that happens a lot. So they're trying to stand up. When they try to stand up, and they put this foot up, like with the star sweep I just showed, and I've got control. Maybe even well, I just show you the sweep. Let's show some ideas for setup. That's what we want to do. So I'm here in my guard, and my opponent has decided, you know, as they should, we want a hand fight here. Okay, so we're trying to hand fight, trying to get for position. Okay, so one way to stop a scissor sweep, even a flower sweep, because of the way that it works, is to post up with a foot. So let's say I set up my collar. So boom, the collar set up. Then I get my sleeve. Boom, my sleeve set up. They can feel, oh, they're going to try to sweep me. Probably a collar, or probably a scissor sweep, because they have my collar. Scissor sweeping without the collar, you can't scissor sweep without the collar. So they're probably thinking, oh, he's going to scissor sweep me. So how do I stop him from scissor sweeping me? I need to put this leg up. Why? Because if I put this leg up, then this leg becomes sort of trapped. So I put this leg up, now this leg is trapped, and I can't turn my hip. But I can change to a pendulum sweep. So now I let go of that, and I turn 90 degrees. Okay, and I've grabbed this nice and deep. Okay, now once I'm here, I'm going to kick and turn. When I do that, I'm going to come up just like so to my knees. Now I'm here, still got that sleeve, still got this leg till I'm done, then I can let go, and now I'm in mount position. Okay? So that's one way that you could potentially set up for the pendulum sweep. Now, like I said, another thing that people will often do in these scenarios is they will go deep when your opponent is not deep. And part of the reason you want to do this in theory, is to get your opponent off guard, right? So if I'm here and I'm here and my opponent, and I start to attack this collar here like this, my opponent should be thinking three things. And this is what every opponent should be thinking with three things. I either need to straight up worry about this, and that's subbed with two things. I either need to get rid of it using whatever technique I know how. Usually it's a press and push. Or if I give enough room, if the guy grabbing gives enough room, you can swim under the arm like this, and that'll take away that move right there. Okay, so when you have this in, the one thing you should be thinking is, what's this for? There's two things, sweeps and chokes. I'm halfway to a sweep, well, halfway-ish to a sweep, but halfway to a choke. I'm halfway to a choke here, so I don't want to. So if your opponent, if you're this guy, you do not want to leave this arm in without realizing what the other side's going to do. So I have two options. Again, I can either grab the sleeve because I want to sweep. All right, if I grab the sleeve, it's kind of like, yeah, I want to sweep. Maybe I'm feinting the sweep to go for a choke, right? But whatever the case is, this is something that needs to be addressed, whether that be mentally and go watch what he's doing with his other stuff, or be physically and go, I don't want this here anymore. And you're going to grab it with both hands, and you're going to extend back and extend out. And you want to keep control of this hand, because once this wrist comes undone, I could go somewhere else, or I could even set that up for what I want to do, right? So like if I go here with this wrist, or this grip here, and I start going for this, you don't let me, you like pull your hand away or whatever, and so you reach up to try to pull it off, and as you pull it off, I grab this wrist, letting you pull it off, and then in the pull off, I turn and reach under this leg here to get my pendulum sweep. All right. So that's totally another way to set up feint other things. That's one of my favorite ways to set up, and that's probably one of the most strategic ways to set up for any kind of sweep or any kind of attack in general, is to set up an attack for the thing that you don't want, and then when they go for it, then you respond with what you actually do want. And I will say that don't ever treat the first attack like it's nothing, all right? Because if you treat it like it's nothing, your opponent's going to think it's nothing. So you want to actually fight for it like it's something. And you want to hold on to it like it's something. And then when your opponent decides to defend against it and starts to, if you start to feel that break, because that's what happens to me a lot in certain situations, I'll let it go to go to something else, to fixate on something else. So again, in this scenario, I've started off with my traditional guard, okay? Always first thing I'm going to try to do, pull the collar down, take the slack out, get this hand inside, up near the head. All right, that's first. Now what you do from here depends on what your idea is. Again, do you sweep? Do you attack? What are you going to do? All right, if you need to let this go, that's fine. But this is always a good place to go to start, okay? Because you're threatening things. You're threatening, I might sweep you, I might choke you. So your opponent is really trying hard to break out of the position in order not to get swept, in order not to get choked. All right? Now, if my opponent doesn't do anything here, I'm just going to continue on with my plan. I'm going to grab this wrist, and then I'm going to turn my body to sweep and go for my scissor sweep. That's what I would do, right? But you're assuming that you're assuming that your opponent knows what's up, which you should. So you go here, and they start messing around. And one of the ways, again, they might mess around is posting that foot up. For me, that's the easiest way to sweep somebody from this position. Tomorrow, we are going to, no, not tomorrow, Thursday, sorry. We're going to go over hip bump stuff. And with the hip bump stuff, you're going to see some real fun ideas off of this that don't necessarily require that full-on sweep. So, so I grab this here like so, and grab this here like so. They post up with this leg because, again, if they post up here, I can't turn into them. They've kind of trapped this leg. Like getting it, moving it out is more difficult because with the leg down, I can move past the leg, right? Let's assume you can see everything. With the leg down, I can move past the leg. I can move around the leg. With the leg up, this leg's trapped. And that's okay. So I'm going to grab, again, I'm going to have a hold of the sleeve. And once they do that, I'm going to let go and turn like that. Okay? And then once I'm here, like so, then I'm going to pendulum sweep. All right, so one more time just to show what that looks like. My leg's up here. This leg goes out, down, and around. And then they come up. And I finish this sweep. Didn't have everything in the way over here. So here, now I'm on my knees. And I'm on mount like that. Okay? All right, now let's talk about what you can move on from here, which is the omoplata. All right. So to give you an idea of what an omoplata is when it's a shoulder lock position when my opponent's hand is stuck in the crook of my thigh, my hip, right here, the crook of my hip. They're right here. And what I'm going to do to finish is I'm going to sit up like this, right? And going to, this is hard because his arm's not very long. I'm going to try to reach over, grab his head like this, and then I'm going to pull on his head. I could pull on his gi or whatever. This is a shoulder lock, lift my hips up. And if his arm was in here, if I had a normal sized person, these arms are like 8 or 9 inches too short for anybody. They're just really tiny. It's super annoying. But yeah, so if I'm here like this, I'll say this. I think the legs need to be shorter and the arms need to be longer. They were a dummy I made, but I didn't make it. So, but yeah, so I'm here like this, and then I pull on the head and I lift this up, and that puts pressure on the shoulder. Okay, so this is a position you can get to from lots of places in gi and no gi. And it's really it's a really good position from the attempted pendulum sweep because of where things are. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I'm in guard, right? I go to set up. I pull the collar down. Go to set that up. Grab the sleeve, go to set that up. Then they decide I'm going to post to get that because he's distracted on this side. So I'm going to post. So he goes to post. This leg comes up, trapping my leg. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna try to pull this across again, and I'm gonna go deep on this leg and up, right? But once I get here, my opponent actually pulls this hand out. So this hand goes here, right? I don't know how he did it. He had gotten it loose or whatever. Maybe I started to forget, right? And I kind of push him up so he bases. Maybe even that's the case. Maybe I don't have that wrist. Like there's 2 ways you can do this. But like, let's just say I went for this and he got it off. So he gets it off, that leg posts, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for my sweep still. So even without the pendulum in, I'm going to go for that sweep. He's going to post, and then once he posts, I pull this leg out, this leg comes over. Now I'm in the omoplata position. I'm not in the full-on omoplata position because this arm's still inside. So I need to control this wrist that I've just taken and get this hand out so I can start to sit up and finish the omoplata. All right, finishing the omoplata again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, you want to, when you're thinking about attacking the omoplata, there are lots of details to this. I actually I personally consider the omoplata an intermediate position because it does require a little bit of finesse and detail, and if you do things incorrectly, you will be worse off than you were before. Okay, but for the basic correct details, first detail is if I'm going to lay flat like this, which happens quite a bit when you're getting in the omoplata, one of the things I have to worry about is my opponent getting his arm across this way. My opponent gets his arm across this way and then sneaks out underneath. See how his head can go under this way? Then I'm pretty done in that moment. All right. So what I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to keep my opponent's arm over here. All right. When I was first learning the omoplata, we used the wrist to push the omoplata over. We used our own hands to push the wrist over, and we used this hand to stop. And you can stop in a couple of different ways, right? But most of the time, when you go to sit up or when you go to do this move, you're not just going to come here to necessarily a flat back. You're also going to sit up into the omoplata, and you're going to put your hand across their back. Okay, so let's say I'm here like this, and this hand is here, and this hand is here. Maybe I'm even grabbing on the back of this right here. All right, now that I'm here, the finish is pretty easy. I just unhook my feet, get this hook out, get this foot out here like this, and then making sure this hand, like imagine this is not just a wrist, this is a hand that's here. And I'm here, and I'm going to just lift my hips up like this. Pull here and lift my hips up like this. Okay? It's a shoulder rotation is what you're doing. So when you have somebody pinned down, their arms up here like this, and so by lifting your hips up, you're bringing this hand up higher. You're rotating that shoulder just like you were doing just like if someone was doing a Kimura on you. They would turn your wrist out like this and like that. All right. So so that's a general way to finish the omoplata. There are all sorts of variations. You can reach across and grab the arm to finish. You can do what's called a Hazlet, which is instead of being perpendicular or parallel to your opponent, you're actually going perpendicular, and you're using your foot underneath their face to help finish the omoplata. All right. There are, like I said, there are lots of different ways to handle the omoplata position. But let's talk about some of the common escapes, because that's what's more important for your basics, is not so much what's available to you for offense, but how to deal with it for defense, because you can't win a match if you're not still in the match, okay? Or a fight for that matter. So if someone has me in the omoplata, there are two things that I like to try to do, all right? The first one I try to do is I try to cartwheel over, okay? So I'll try to get this as best I can with Bob here. His legs are long enough, so it might work. All right, so if Bob put me in an omoplata, right? In fact, there are times when I try to go to the omoplata because I feel like it's easier to escape than some people's guards are. So if I'm here in an omoplata position, if I can just cartwheel over like this, then I can pull my arm out and I'm finished, which is why the arm across the back is real important, because that didn't take very much, did it? Right? The arm by itself can stop a lot. It's pretty crazy, because if they start to come over, you can just like keep them away, just kind of push them away or hold over their back or whatever. The holding over the back part, that's also important, because some people do a somersault. All right? Let's see if I can do this. So the second option for people to get out of omoplata is a somersault. All right, to do that, I'm here like this, right? So I'm gonna go over my shoulder, and that was a terrible somersault. I'm a terribly somersault this way, right? Most people end up here, like this. And then once I'm here, right, the arm's no longer in danger, and I can come back up over the top, okay? So you more acrobatic people, that's definitely a good way to defend against omoplata. All right, now option number 2 or option number 3, because there's a lot of options here, and you don't always get to try them all, because if your opponent's any good at omoplata, you might get one opportunity to get out, and you have to base it on what your opponent's done. So if your opponent's blocking the hips, you're not going to get the cartwheel, you're not going to get the roll, but you may get the duck under if they're not being very tight with their legs. Okay? So if I'm here like this, and my opponent's kind of being loose with their legs, because their legs should be, try to get these legs together, so I just gotta get that off the ground. Like this. Go. So we can keep that here. Perfect. All right. So my opponent's not being tight with his legs. I can just duck under and come around like this. Now I'm out of the omoplata. All right. So you see why the omoplata can be sort of an intermediate technique, because 1, you got to control the hips for the cartwheel and for the roll. 2, you got to be strong enough in your legs to do the duck under, right? There's 2 more ways you can deal with this. For you guys who have real strong bases and hips to deal with these things, this would be an easy way to get out as well. So if I'm here, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step forward with one foot like this, and then and most people will keep hanging on here, and then I'm going to step up with the other one, and notice how the back is there, right? And then I'm going to shrug and get away. Okay? You want to get away from that, because if you shrug, and you just stand there, they can grab a hold of your legs. Okay? So I'll show that one more time. And it may even behoove you if you can get the inside leg. It's just harder for me, it can be harder because the weight's going this way. If someone's got your shoulder, your weight's going to this side, so it's already pressing on this leg. But if you can get that leg out first, this side's actually the better choice. But if not, if you're here, most likely when you come back, this leg's going to be easier to get than this one, so you can stand up. Then once you're here, you're going to twist and shrug and run away. Okay? All right. Now, the last one. This is the last one, and then we're done. This is option number 5. And like I said, if you want to talk about, or if you want to try each of these with somebody and see which one you feel comfortable with, that one is going to work real well with somebody who's already got that foot up. Like if you can get that foot up before they even really start going at it, you're going to be pretty well off, right? The other 2 require speed and timing. The first 2 do. The third one requires you to get under your opponent's legs, so if they're not super, with it. This one is, I would say, the one that can kind of work for everybody. And this is not foolproof, by the way. In fact, when you do this move, there's a good chance you're going to end up on the bottom, but at least you're not being submitted anymore. That's the plus side of this one. This is sort of like if I go, first thing I try to do when I go for something is I'll time the omoplata so I'm actually going into it. So I'm kind of pushing up against it. When they push back, then I push in and I try to go for that cartwheel. If that cartwheel fails, this is my second option. Okay? So my second option works like this. My opponent's got me here, and I'm feeling pretty dead. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop to my shoulder like this. I'll drop on this leg, and I'm going to I'm going to roll this way, right? And one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to be able to pull your opponent over you, right? And they don't make any sort of moves at all, and they end up sort of coming over the top. And then once they're here, I can sit up and take the back Or what a good omoplata guy will do when I do this is as they start to come over, they actually swivel their hips and when they and get into this position right here. So now I'm on my back and my opponent's in side control, which is, again, not I would say better than the way I was before. Okay, so this has a completely different set of skills to it. I'm not going to go over that today. I do have some videos on YouTube that cover the side control, so if you guys want to check those out, I'll keep working those in as we go. But those are the 5 basic omoplata escapes, and I would say pick 2 of those and make those your go-tos, because especially that last one, if a guy's got a really good omoplata and it doesn't look like you're going to get out of it by doing any of if you're athletic, doing athletic things, if you're flexible, doing flexible things, if it doesn't look like you're going to get out of it, that second one going to your side is a really good option, because if you can get this arm out of the way as well, that's another thing too. It's like if I drop to that arm, see, so if I'm here, if I'm like this, and I drop to this arm, then it's really hard to finish, right? So if I'm here like this, and I go like this, and I try to kick this through to pull them over, to roll them over, I should say. So I'm actually just trying to roll over like this, see? Then there's no more omoplata here. They can't finish me from here. Okay? So that's what I got for you guys today. Tomorrow we'll be continuing some more guard sweeps, and we're gonna go over some alternate collar chokes, because that's good. So we're doing, we're doing the collar, so we need to do some collar chokes. So we'll go over those tomorrow. But hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, again, my name is Justin Turcotte. Hopefully maybe. If you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, this will be on the on YouTube and on your feed, so you can watch it whenever. And yeah, have a good one. Talk to you later.